Retro motorcycles are flying out of showrooms, but why are they so damn popular? Well, the short answer is because they remind us old farts of our youth. There, we're done. Now you can turn off this video and go stare at the Harley or Triumph in your garage. Or you can stick around and explore this topic a bit deeper. Because the story is longer than that. It delves into our psychology and culture, and it starts way back, with Adam and Eve hanging out in the garden. Tell you the rest in a second. Here's a retro subscribe button. The real one is underneath. Feel free to click it. I'm not saying it'll make you young again, but I'm not saying it won't either. Now back to retro bikes. Harley-Davidson never stopped producing motorcycles that harken back to the past. Triumph did when they went belly up in 1983, and resisted going down memory lane when they recommenced operations in 1991, but ultimately brought back the Bonneville in 2001. The retro market was just too lucrative, and Kawasaki was cashing in with their W650. Nowadays, the Bonneville line has expanded to 10 models, while Kawasaki has punched out that 650 to an 800. Incidentally, around the same time, Kawasaki was also producing its Drifter line. What does that bike remind you of? So of course, Indian resurfaced in the 2000s, or 1999 if you count a Harley clone as being an Indian. And then Ducati came out with its Scrambler line in 2015. Norton has been in the process of being revived with some, mixed results. And Royal Enfield, which has never stopped producing classic bikes, came out with the 650cc twins last year and is making a killing. Add the Moto Guzzi V7, which is another one of those bikes that's been around forever, and you've got a huge number of machines to choose from. Because these bikes are the venerable hotcakes of the motorcycling world, they often become the best-selling models of their manufacturers. Furthermore, they spawn other retro versions of themselves, like Scramblers and Cafe Racers. So what does all this have to do with Adam and Eve? Most viewers will know the story of the leaf-clad couple who lived in a perfect paradise and had all their needs met by a benevolent creator. They were expelled from the garden because they ate from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. In essence, they found out the unpleasant realities of the world and were cast out to a place where they experienced labor, hardship, and mortality. Similarly, the Greek Golden Age starts with humans living in a perfect paradise in a world of perpetual spring. The Silver Age brings labor and the changing of the seasons, the Bronze Age greed and exploration, and the Iron Age evil and depravity. These two tales are not unique. Cultures from around the world, cultures who could not have had contact with one another, have come up with similar stories or archetypes. And one of the most prevalent ones is the myth that things used to be better until something ruined the world and sent us into a fallen state. Now, we must remember that none of these stories are true. Life in any ancient society would have been nasty, brutish, and short, to borrow the words of Thomas Hobbes. People lived with the constant threat of starvation and violence, and due to their limited medical knowledge were susceptible to a million ailments, many of which, while easily treatable today, would be a death sentence back then. So how could people from Iceland, Mesopotamia, South America, Africa, and Australia all share similar stories that were demonstrably untrue? Were they in contact with each other? Did they trade goods and ideas a long time ago in some way we haven't yet discovered? Probably not. The answer is more simple yet more fascinating. They were all human beings, and their minds and experiences all overlapped. That's why archetypes exist. You see, all of these stories are the perfect metaphor for something we all experience: growing up. We start out as children, living in our own metaphorical garden. Our parents provide us with everything we need, showering us with attention and unconditional love. We have few stresses and no responsibilities. We're in the middle of our own golden age. Then we go to school, find out more about the world, pursue goals, and fall in love for the first time. These are exciting times we will remember fondly for the rest of our lives. However, the party comes to a halt when we strike out on our own and experience all the challenges and disappointments of adult life. Suddenly we are stressed, overworked, and overloaded with responsibility. We have promotions to strive for, mortgages to pay, and a tough world to navigate. People try to push us around and take advantage of us at every turn. We have gained the knowledge of good and evil and entered the Iron Age. And so it seems natural to us that the world of the past was a better place. It was for us, and that's why such stories appeal to human beings of all cultures. And anything that represents that world becomes a symbol of paradise lost. Some folks restore classic Mustangs, some collect vinyl, and others ride motorcycles. But not just any motorcycles, the ones that look and sound like the ones our parents and grandparents rode. Boom, a marketer's dream. Slap some chrome and classic styling on a bike and put it in a cheesy ad with some young, attractive actors doing things like camping or racing around a beach, and you've got the perfect recipe to pull on the heartstrings of middle-aged guys, and girls too, who want to take a break from their stressful office jobs and from their kids and just go out and feel young and carefree again. Climbing onto that Harley, Triumph or Royal Enfield takes them back to a simpler time when they were those actors in the ads and they did sit around the campfire with their friends. Or at least they wish they had been cool enough to do those things. And they still can be, for $8,000 Canadian. Or more. Because we are a rational species on the surface, but below it we are deeply irrational, shaped by experiences and ruled by yearnings that we may never fully understand, but we are more than willing to fulfill. A new Softail Slim may or may not help you recapture your youth, but if you've got the funds to get one, you might as well try. And the funny thing is, this doesn't just apply to the old fogies. Millennials are susceptible to this kind of marketing too. That's where hipsters come from. People are so overstressed and overwhelmed by technology these days that a pair of analog gauges can make you nostalgic for a decade your parents or grandparents were born in and that you only saw in movies. That's why 30-somethings build cafe racers and listen to Lana Del Rey. And even though many younger riders will choose the latest and greatest bikes brimming with technology and sporting brain-melting performance, many will look at the tack and speedo on a Royal Enfield Interceptor and smile. And in truth, today's new retro bikes are good machines, far superior to their namesakes of decades past. They start with the press of a button, don't leak oil all over your driveway, and actually come to a stop when the brakes are applied. Besides having the ability to make you feel young again, they can serve as viable, dependable transportation. When I was a kid in Poland, my grandfather had an old MZ motorcycle. One time my dad borrowed that bike, rode me out to a farmer's field, sat me on the thing and had me putt-putt around in first gear. I can't remember the model name or much else about that bike, but I do remember that it had a speedometer located in the top of the headlight. A funny thing to remember, but to this day when I see a motorcycle with a speedo in the headlight, I wax nostalgic about that old MZ. Because nostalgia is a powerful influence on our lives, and an even more powerful marketing tool for selling us goods. And you know what? I don't mind. Sure, manipulate me. Take my money and promise me my youth again. I'll play along, and I'll enjoy it. Because my life is a story, and it's also a tragedy, and so is yours. And none of these stories end well. In his classic song Against the Wind, Bob Seger penned one of the greatest lines in rock and roll history. He was reminiscing about his youth and sang, "I wish I didn't know now what I didn't know then." Brilliant. And so if a hunk of metal and chromium helps me to forget the knowledge of good and evil for just a few hours while I putt-putt down a country lane, then it's worth every penny. And that's the long-winded reason why retro bikes are so damn popular. There's one more brief thing I want to say, and that is thank you. I've had this channel since 2009, but most of the time I didn't upload anything onto it but brief clips of me cycling or racing triathlons, just for family and friends. At the beginning of the 2019 season, I came back into motorcycling after a few years away and decided to film a motovlog. I had seen a few on YouTube and thought it might be fun. I uploaded it and got a bit of a response, so I kept doing it all year. I didn't actually start taking the channel seriously until the beginning of 2020, as I was approaching 1,000 subscribers. It took me a year to get that first 1,000, and now, 3 months later, I'm approaching 16,000. I'm humbled by the response to my videos and by the growth of this channel. Thank you for watching, commenting, subscribing, liking, disliking, trolling, and otherwise engaging with the content. I truly appreciate it and apologize if I don't get to your comment. I try, but sometimes it becomes a choice between answering comments for hours at a time or working on my next video. I hope you enjoyed this one. See you again in a few days. If you're interested in any of the gear that Brooke and I wear or use, or the camera equipment we use to film this channel, the links are below. Everything listed there was bought with our own money and we are not sponsored by any company. However, the links below are affiliate links and the channel is paid a small amount for referring you to shop at no additional cost to you. We do not recommend any products that we are not satisfied with ourselves, but we do strongly urge you to do your research and select the correct size for items like helmets and clothing. As always, thanks for watching, your support is greatly appreciated. Please hit that subscribe button, give the video a thumbs up, and leave a comment below. And whatever you ride, enjoy it. Wave at other bikers no matter what they're riding, we're all part of a brotherhood and sisterhood. Keep the rubber side down, shiny side up, and may the spokes be with you.